Look at the scene. Do you see what's wrong with it? It's staring you right in the face. Now look at the scene. Do you see what's so right with it? Well, maybe you don't see it, but I do. And I want to explain to you what makes this scene rather strange, and what makes these scenes from James Gunn's Superman remarkable. So remember that thing Martin Scorsese said about comic book movies?
The theaters become amusement parks. That's a different experience. It's not cinema, it's something else.
Well, despite what he said, I'm willing to bet he really likes Richard Donner's 1978 Superman.
Let's go back in time and explore the reasons why Superman remains a benchmark by which all other comic book adaptations are compared.
Richard Donner's way of telling Superman's story was slow and deliberate. He was trying to bring Superman as down-to-earth as possible, to turn him into a believable facet of reality. This approach is cinema. Cinema tries to convince you what is fiction is not fiction but reality. That's why so many films like Martin Scorsese's films started with a tagline based on true events. And get this, the tagline for the 1978 Superman movie was, "You'll believe a man can fly." So yeah, they wanted to bring Superman down to earth, but not all the way.
And the minute we got to Metropolis, bang, it became a comic strip.
If Richard Donner's Superman was a realistic take on the character, then Zack Snyder's would be hyper-realistic. Like Donner, Zack Snyder tried to bring Superman down to earth, but he took him much further down than Donner did. We saw Superman stealing clothes. He wrecked a random guy's car to get back at him. He prioritized winning a deadly fight over saving people, and at the end of the movie, he kills the villain. This isn't the comic book Superman, this is Superman in the real world. And Snyder wanted to remind you that this was the real world every second you were in it. That's why the movie looked so gray, dark, moody, and humorless. And you may wonder, well, what's wrong with that? That brings us to these shots of Batman I showed you in the beginning. Do you see what's wrong with it? Surely you must notice how strange Batman looks in this realistic setting, right? You see, Batman has never looked right on screen, not even in Matt Reeves' 2022 The Batman. Batman wears a ridiculous-looking bat costume. In the comic books, he looks really cool, but if you make a live-action Batman movie and go for the cinema approach, this is what you get.
One man or the entire mob. He can wait.
Comic book characters don't belong in the real world. They belong in comic books and cartoons. Now, there are comic book characters like Superman that can get away with being depicted in realistic settings, but at the same time, the problem with depicting Superman in a real-world setting is that it limits the world he's in. Metropolis will never feel like Metropolis. Gotham will never feel like Gotham. And the characters in this world, like Batman and the Spectre, will never fit in. Ultimately, what all these comic book characters really need is the James Gunn approach. James Gunn's way of adapting comic book characters is a complete departure from cinema, a complete departure from reality. I'm sure you've heard people say that his Superman movie feels like a Saturday morning cartoon. Well, that's precisely what he's going for. That's why he decided to put trunks on Superman. That's also why Crypto is in the movie. And this weird dragon monster Superman fights isn't something that would pop up in a film like Man of Steel because it's too cartoony. Every shot in this movie is a complete departure from reality. Every shot is a complete cartoon, but in live action. It's quite remarkable. Like this is Metropolis. And look at the setting for the Fortress of Solitude. You can't have a more perfect visual aesthetic for the DC Comics world than James Gunn's Superman. Now I see a world where Batman and all the other DC characters can exist and coexist effortlessly. And I've heard a complaint about Superman having too many jokes.
What the hey, dude?
That's just what cartoons are like. You take away that humor from the movie, and this world takes several steps closer to reality. You can't just have a cartoon that looks like a cartoon. It needs to move like one, feel like one. That's the only environment these characters can thrive in.